Welcome, everyone. I'm Melissa Bamberg, Director of Enrollment Management here at Hillbrook School, and we thank you for joining us tonight. We're very excited for tonight's event. Tonight's virtual information session is the fourth in a series of virtual admissions events. This year, our first webinar shared an introduction about our academic program. Our second invited a number of students and parents from a local independent school that shared their experiences of being founding families at that school. And our third was focused on engaged learning and healthy communities with Stanford professor Denise Pope. If your family missed any of our previous webinars and you'd like a recording of them, we have them recorded and we're happy to share them with you. So please just reach out by email. Today, we will spend some time diving deeper into social impact learning at Hillbrook and hear from our Scott Center of Social Entrepreneurship. Throughout the webinar, we encourage you to ask questions using the Q&A feature. We'll leave time for questions and answers at the end of our program. And we will start today with some welcome remarks and an introduction to diversity, equity, and inclusion at Hillbrook from our head of school, Mark Silver.
Thanks, Melissa. I want to join Melissa in welcoming everybody. Excited to have people here tonight to hear about social impact learning. And we wanted to ground that in the school's longtime commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And one of the things that drew me to Hillbrook many years ago was the school's early history. And going all the way back to the 1930s, in the early years, the school served many students who were wards of the state. And part of the belief at the school at the time was that all students, given the right opportunity, could grow up and learn and thrive. And that's been something that has animated us since those early days. And so over the last 10 to 15 years, we've really formalized how we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion at the school. And it's something that is deeply rooted in the work that we do both in the classroom and as we build a community. And as you can see before you there, we talk and have definitions around those three key terms, diversity and, conversations about who's in the room. And we're very thoughtful about making sure that our community reflects the broader diversity of the San Jose area and of the Bay Area. Equity, conversations about access, and that involves everything from making sure that students are supported so that they can thrive in the classroom, to supporting students. We have more than 30% of our students are on flexible tuition, and making sure that all of those families who are receiving flexible tuition are able to fully participate in the life of the school. And then inclusion and belonging, and that's been particularly important coming out of the pandemic. And we've talked a lot about how do we make sure that all students are feeling like they belong in our community. So DEI is kind of the basis of much of what we do at the school. And then what we're going to talk a lot about tonight is how that interacts with justice and action. And so over the last 6 years, in particular, we have talked a lot about what matters to you and what are you going to do about it? And it's been driven by the work of the Scott Center for Social Entrepreneurship. And so it gives me great pleasure to introduce Annie Makala, the director of the Scott Center, who is going to talk more about how DEI and then JA work together at Hillbrook.
Hi, everyone. It's so great to be with you tonight. And I am having a little bit of a pinch me moment because as we've built this work at our JK to 8th grade campus, we've always envisioned what the possibilities would look like if we were to launch a high school and to be able to do this alongside high school students. Our vision at the Scott Center is to help learners of all ages see the world as it is, imagine what it might be, and partner with others to make a positive impact for people and the planet. And we do that with the framework driven by the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So you'll see right here on the slide, these are goals that not only tie us to equity and impact literacy, they give us deep connections to social entrepreneurs locally and globally who are driving work forward. And they allow students of all ages to see themselves in the work that matters to them and think deeply about whether they want to make change in multiple sustainable development goals or whether there are one or two that really resonate deeply with them. This is an extension of our vision of the school to reach beyond and make a difference in the world. And we really see that as the connection to DEI work because it's taking the grounding of connecting deeply to community with having the agency to go out and do something about it. And we are inspired every day by what young people say matters to them. And really feel honored to be able to have an opportunity to, through 9th to 12th grade, think deeply about what the learning and the opportunities locally and globally will look like to go do something about it. To give you a little bit of insight into what that might look like, in the 9th grade integrated arts, you could imagine doing things like digital and physical fabrication, human-centered design, and then through the lens of social entrepreneurship. And we often define social entrepreneurship not just as starting a business, but the French definition of entrepreneurship is really to undertake complex problems. And so we do that with sustainable development mindset and a sense of designing for belonging. These classes would be hands-on in the hub, making and designing alongside really amazing community partners with endless possibilities of where this class might take you in 10th and 11th and 12th grade. And of course, one of the key signature parts of the Hillbrook High School is our Reach Beyond immersive programs. This is just such a unique experience in an upper school environment where you'll really get to dive deep into incredible learning, whether that's in the city of San Jose, where you could meet with urban planners and designers, artists, activists, local politicians, or whether you're going far, far away to learn about land preservation and opportunities to see these sustainable development goals in action and to meet with people who every day are thinking about how they're moving their work forward, how they're making sense of complex and interesting problems in the world and really going and doing something about it, not just talking and sitting and thinking about it, but these are really action forward, deeply immersive, deeply exciting learning opportunities. In your 9th grade Reach Beyond Immersives, you can imagine using our city. The campus is located in an incredibly rich learning environment in downtown San Jose. And San Jose will be an extension of our classroom. It's place-based urban education. Thinking about the future of San Jose, we're joining the community at such an exciting time in which there's a real opportunity for 9th grade students to shape and shift the future of San Jose, to see civics in action. And one of our favorite opportunities is this art as activism, where we'll look at murals and artists who are using the form of art to make change and to share what matters to them with the community. You could also imagine looking at the intersection of geography, civics, culture, and social impact through the lens of immigration and multicultural studies. Maybe we'll go to Vancouver. The history of land use and conservation with a trip to the Patagonia region in Argentina and Chile. Or maybe we're looking at sustainable technology in agriculture in New Zealand or Peru. The possibilities are really endless, and this founding class will help guide and shape what these immersives look like in 9th grade and beyond. At the Scott Center for Social Entrepreneurship, we really defined 6 lenses of what we're calling impact academics, and they guide the work not only in core academic classes, but also how children and students interact with the world outside of school. And we do this because we know things like financial education is what helps kids turn ideas into real impact, understanding things like the circular economy and impact investing. We could imagine a student club or a student class where kids are actually making real world impact investments in companies that they think will have a lasting impact on people and the planet. We see systems and understand the future of learning through the idea of regenerative agriculture and look at the intersection of athletes and activism, what people every day out in our community are doing to make a difference. The lens of story allows us to see storytelling as a real tool for social change, the way in which we experience our own stories, but also the stories of our community members locally and globally. And design opens up so many exciting opportunities. We have partnerships with companies like Microsoft and Pixar, where we're looking at artificial intelligence for impact and robotics for social change. Which leads me to this slide. Robotics for social impact. This is such an exciting opportunity to really bring together a transdisciplinary mindset where you're looking at custom fabrication and human-centered design. And you're doing that all through the lens of social entrepreneurship and understanding the ways in which advanced coding and robotics is going to make a difference in how we all exist in the world. And so having young people, youth, engage deeply in shaping and shifting this and working alongside local technology experts and seeing the real world impact of these opportunities is at the heart of what we will be experiencing across the entire high school experience, especially in ninth grade.
Thanks, Annie. It's always inspiring to hear you speak. It's good to be here, everyone. I'm Mike Peller, the head of the upper school, and what you're seeing right now is a schedule for a sample ninth grader. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about our schedule tonight. That we spent a lot of time in the first webinar speaking about it, but I will just highlight a couple things. It's built around wellness, belonging, and engagement, and these are the sort of three pillars around which we're thinking about the school. And as Annie was speaking about immersives, those are these 3-week courses that happen at the beginning of the year and the end of the year. And one might be asking, okay, so what's happening throughout the year in the regular part of the week, day to day? And as we think about the high school experience, the 4 years in high school, we're really thinking about 9th and 10th grade as a separate experience from 11th and 12th. In 9th and 10th, what we want to build in our students are the skills and knowledge to have the frameworks to go into any situation and be able to ask meaningful questions, to have the understanding to contextualize what's going on. And then be able to ask that question and do the research and create arguments, to be able to communicate those arguments effectively. And then what we want to do, though, is in 11th and 12th grade, as students are getting closer and closer to college, is to create some cracks in our schedule to liberate students to engage in really, really hands-on, authentic learning. And so in the 11th and 12th grade, we're imagining opening up our schedule a little bit. And this is a model that's still in a little bit of a prototype phase, but we're going to introduce this idea of an H block. And we learned so much throughout the pandemic of how and when to use asynchronous learning. Even before that, for the last 10 years, a lot of focus has been on blended learning and flipped instruction. And so we believe that there's opportunities to move some of the content that you might have in 11th and 12th grade classes asynchronously. And in doing so, it opens up a lot of time during the day where we can ask our students, encourage our students, motivate our students to engage in the city in problems that really matter to them. And so what might happen during these times? I'm really excited to introduce to you Aaron Shorn. He's an entrepreneur in residence for us, and he's helping us develop both an 11th grade and a 12th grade program that will anchor students in opportunities within San Jose that will empower them to make a difference in their communities. So Aaron, can you speak to us about the 11th and 12th grade programs?
Yeah, honored to be here and just honored to get to collaborate with you all. My work is about empowering youth to have greater agency and ownership over their education, essentially moving from passive to active and from creator to consumer. That's my TED Talk language around it. But giving youth the ability to iterate and engage with the world, to learn almost through a more kind of liquid and agile scientific method, and giving them experiences that not only allow them to stand out in the college application process, not only give them portfolios that they can utilize for internships and jobs, but give them this kind of sense of confidence and really importantly, humbleness that allows them to make change not 10 years after they graduate from university, but while they're still in these really amazing, fruitful years of late teenage and early 20s. And so my work with this incredible team is building out the micro and macro, helping youth think about the technical skills that they're learning, and giving them projects, having them create products that make an impact on their community and their families and themselves. And that's what's, I think, really exciting. We hear the word capstone, kind of this culminating experience senior year that allows them to engage with all kinds of subject matter experts from a myriad of industries. And one of the most exciting things about what Hillbrook is embarking on is that San Jose is really the campus of the school, that learners get to engage with stakeholders, adults, fellow youth, and kids that are a part of their community and that they can kind of partner side by side with. And I think that's really exciting. My work in entrepreneurship allows me to kind of speak with some firsthand experience, and my work kind of helping schools across the country and writing for Getting Smart as a columnist give me some uh, ability to think about what's happening around the world in education as well. Mike, anything else you want me to kind of cover or speak to?
Only to talk a little bit about the idea of this 11th grade program, and then the next slide we can talk specifically about the 12th grade program.
Totally. So I think what's really powerful about 11th grade is it acts as scaffolding before they go into their senior year. That they get to partner with an organization like the Aspen Challenge and almost have buckets to choose from, problems that they can help solve, and gain some really powerful skills, and do the metacognition of thinking about how they learn and growing those capacities and skills. As I work with youth in Hawaii and California, across the world, getting them to understand that success isn't just their venture, but that they can take these really important skills that they've learned in the process of creating something, and utilize that in their next kind of ventures in life too. So I think what's really exciting about this capstone, as they've built these skills up through 9th, 10th, 11th, and into their senior year, is that they get to commit to an area of interest. They get to pull from what makes them unique, to pull from problems that they face or that people in their lives have faced, and begin to iterate and try to solve this, partnering with all kinds of stakeholders in their lives. And then to be able to launch, to take perhaps a lean startup approach or agile project management approach, and to get kind of smaller versions of ideas out into the world, getting data back, and then to truly kind of engage. I'm a firm believer in human connection and storytelling being at the core of some of the most important leadership skills as we go into 2023 and beyond. And getting youth to embark on working in teams, to learn the skills of empathy and feedback is going to be really exciting throughout their journey, but really especially in their senior year. And then kind of the art of pitch, the science and art of pitch and presentation, getting them to present multiple times to an authentic audience of subject matter experts that they interacted with, of teachers and stakeholders, of parents in their lives, time and time again, as we've made school really a part of the community. You're able to bring in so many more stakeholders into these really powerful presentations. And I think, as we think about what makes a graduate unique, the ability to document and share your story, the ability to create and get your work out into the world is going to be a core skill that universities and employers are looking for. But I think most importantly, Hillbrook wants to graduate students that understand the world and understand their impact in it. I think that's what's really exciting about this work. So I think, this idea, go for it, Mike.
I was going to turn this part over to Annie, and let Annie talk a little bit about this specific piece. Thank you, Erin.
Yeah, thank you. It's so exciting to be able to see the Scott Center for Social Entrepreneurship, Social Impact Fellowship really come to life. And this is our most prestigious and intellectually challenging designation and recognition of students that from 9th to 12th grade really take it seriously what it means to turn an idea into meaningful impact. And throughout their high school experience, there will be a set of criteria. You can see some of the things that will fall under the fellowship criteria below, but it's really about an opportunity for students to say, this is what matters to me, and I'm going to move this forward, and I want to do it alongside core academic classes, mentors in the community, and also alongside examples of real world companies that have done this work in their own spaces. And so the fellowship is not just something that happens in 11th and 12th grade. It's something that we'll be talking to students from the moment they step foot onto the high school and coaching them along the way. And there will be moments in which they try something and it doesn't go exactly as planned. And it'll be a great learning opportunity for them to pivot and rethink the structure, check in with a mentor and a coach, or think differently about their pitch and their opportunity to partner with the local community. This will culminate in successfully defending a social impact portfolio to a team of both faculty and community advisors. And we have so many people in the community already that are really excited, both to work alongside students, but also to hear what their ideas are for making change locally and globally. So we can imagine all sorts of different kinds of presentations that are really rooted in the direction that students go with their social impact fellowship. And I'm going to pass it over to Charlie, who is going to share a little bit more about how this is going to connect in to their college applications.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Charlie Berkeley, Director of College Counseling. And the first thing I just wanted to briefly address related to the previous slide is that we sometimes get questions about this designation that means so much within the Hillbrook community, and how does that get conveyed to colleges who are ultimately reading applications from Hillbrook seniors who are then taking the next step in their educational journeys. So really quickly, I can just assure you that Hillbrook, in having this designation, having the Scott Center, putting that all together, we are in fact answering the question of what matters to us. And this is what we're going to do about it, is creating this track for students to be able to learn the skills, to build a strong foundation to truly affect change within their current community and then beyond in college and afterwards. So the place that gets communicated is through the school profile. And anyone who has been on the college admissions circuit, maybe with an older child in recent years, has heard colleges say that as part of the required application materials, one of those is a school profile where there are facts and figures. It indicates the mission and vision of the school, who are the faculty, who are the leaders of the institution, what does the curriculum include, and another item that always will be front and center are any special programs. And so I can already envision the way that we are talking about this. And so then any college who is reviewing an applicant from Hillbrook who's talking about this in their materials, the college admission officer, the first place they'll go is to our school profile, and they'll learn all of those details and more about students who are really committed to impact. And then here on the screen, which you've likely been looking at for the past several moments, is a thought-provoking essay question. And while, the college counseling team will be sharing information with colleges, the best people to be sharing their perspective and goals and dreams and impact they've already made are the students, the applicants themselves. And you can see here on the screen, the question is, if you were given unlimited resources to help solve one problem in your community, what would it be and how would you accomplish it? And the 200 means in 200 words or fewer. But this year, looking ahead to the founding of Hillbrook's High School, I've been able to look at these essay questions in new and exciting ways as I've envisioned how Hillbrook seniors will be able to answer them in several years' time. And colleges have recently, especially in the past 5 years, been communicating that they're looking for change maker qualities in their students. They're looking for students who are creative, who are innovative, who can navigate across diversity, who are committed to social justice, to a global perspective. And this is coming through loud and clear in the essay questions that students are being asked. This one is from the University of Notre Dame. There's a similar one for University of Pittsburgh, for University of North Carolina. There's another UNC question that's asking about a peer who's made a difference in your community. And then a whole host of questions asking for students to reflect on their identity and the role it's playing in their life. So I, as the sole member now of the college counseling team, am so excited for how students will be able to talk about the ways that they have delved so deeply into these concepts during their high school years. So at that, I am going to begin the question period here. And so the first question that popped into the chat, I can pull it up right here. Let's see. And maybe Ilse, are you able to jump right into that one? So we'll get started there and each of us will be answering relevant questions.
Sure. Thanks, Charlie. Hi, everybody. Nice to see many of you again. I'm the Director of Teaching and Learning at the school. And one of the questions that we got in the Q&A so far, what are some of the projects that you've seen or that you have in mind for the robotics for social justice focus? And this reminded me, Annie, I was thinking about, we have a robotics club in our middle school, but that robotics club has not been really using robotics to tackle social justice issues. They've been solving other kinds of problems. That said, we do a lot of work with students using other forms of making and design to address social justice and climate justice issues. And I was thinking about a project last year that an 8th grader built for his capstone, where he had really gotten interested in micro trash and had done a lot of research about the impacts of micro trash and the way it accumulates in watersheds and in certain parts of the world, especially and in the oceans, about the impacts that it has on animals and on people. And he wanted to do something about it. And so he built a device to pick up micro trash, and it had to be hand operated, but he used as a starting place a tennis ball collector, and then he made all of these modifications to the pieces at the bottom so that when he rolled it over the ground, he could pick up not only larger pieces of trash. He started with some things like crushed soda cans that he pulled out of the recycling bins, but then he started working his way down to smaller and smaller wrappers. And I was thinking about how with this robotics course, I could imagine him building something even more sophisticated that might even be able to almost Roomba style clean up micro trash. And Annie, I wonder, I'm sure you remember the student I'm thinking of. I wonder if there are other ideas that you've been thinking about for what that kind of work will look like at the high school with the robotics course.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the really exciting partnerships that we've been working on building for many years and could absolutely turn into a high school internship is with a company called Zipline, which uses drones and various types of robotic technology to deliver blood and important medical devices and medical needs to communities that wouldn't be accessible by roads and by traditional forms of transportation. They're based right up the road in Half Moon Bay, and a lot of their engineers are really excited about the opportunity, not only to continue to deepen their mindset around what does it look like to actually apply a diversity, equity, inclusion, justice, and action lens to the work that they're already doing, but also to think of communities. Their primary communities are right now in Africa. But one of the questions they probed our students on when they came to visit as guest speakers were, where in the United States might Zipline continue to partner, and how will they access the kind of communities that we're not necessarily able to see right now, whether that's based on natural disasters, so when hurricanes hit or when there's forest fires. And our students had all sorts of really cool ideas to push their thinking. And so we can imagine internships where they're working alongside both the launch of the Zipline drones, but also helping to think through the kind of partners that they might build right here in the United States and of course also other places globally.
Thanks, Annie. We had another question about if some of you could share some exemplar projects that the Scott Center has helped students with so far.
Do we have
Sure,
like
yeah.
30 days and 30 hours? There's just, it is, and Mark, all of us can jump in because there's so many that resonate with each of us differently, depending on what our role in mentoring and coaching has looked like over the years. One of my absolute favorites is from a student whose family is Iranian, who has a deep connection to immigration and refugees. And last year, at the beginning of the year, there was a significant number of Afghan refugees that moved to the Bay Area. And the student emailed me over the summer and said, I'm really worried that when this group of refugees gets to the United States, they're going to lose a sense of their home. They're going to feel disconnected from the things that matter to them and the kind of foods that they eat. And, my family was Iranian. And when we moved here, this is something my mom talked a lot about, like not having access to the kind of foods that she was used to eating and feeling really lonely and feeling really isolated. So she said, what if we did like a taste of home social impact project? And it could be even our 4 and 5-year-olds helping us build out these baskets where we bring and we research, we understand the kind of spices and foods that people from Afghanistan use in their cooking. And we delivered more than 100 baskets. And she had this really concrete number that she was hoping to achieve. And she really took on all of the research and the data collection. She mapped out using like complex spreadsheets with all sorts of really interesting ideas of like, I could buy 10-pound bags of rice, and then that would save us $27, and we'd be able to spend that money on expensive spices like turmeric and other organic spices. And she brought together over 50 members of our community, from board members to 4 and 5-year-olds. And a Friday afternoon, we built over 100 baskets and delivered them to a group of Afghan refugees that had just come to live in the Bay Area. And, that's one piece of a project that is really incredible. The part of that project that I think is most impactful is there was a second grader that was part of the experience with her. And the second grader also has a connection to Iran and to her family being refugees. And this second grader this year came up to me and said, that project Soraya did? I want to do something similar for the women in Iran who are fighting for justice and are fighting really hard every day. And it doesn't seem like we're doing enough. And so she and her friends during recess got together, and she even emailed Soraya. Her and her mom called and emailed Soraya and asked for suggestions and ideas of what they might do to support the women in Iran. So while single projects have huge impact and they have kind of a start and end date, our favorite thing about social entrepreneurship work is that it often has ripple effects that we can't even begin to quantify in single moments. The relationships that students are building, not just with coaches and mentors, but with the larger community and with younger students and siblings. I mean, there's just such exciting opportunities for that lens of like, how do you see people that are new and that don't feel seen? And how do you welcome people to our community in meaningful and thoughtful ways? And I'll pass it to Mark. Maybe Mark has other examples.
That was the example I was going to give. But I think Charlie actually had another question teed up.
I do. So our next question here refers to the 9th grade Reach Beyond Immersives. And so the question being asked is, how firm are these particular locations and topics, such as places so far flung and exciting sounding like Patagonia and New Zealand?
Yeah, and maybe to take a step back first, I should say the Reach Beyond Immersives are an extension of what's currently going on at our middle school. So in our middle school, we have what's called our Reach Beyond Week, where students are all over the country and the world exploring topics of meaning to the school and to the students, to the world. We have trips going to Peru. We have a trip going to Japan and Taiwan. This opportunity of giving students the experience to be in other countries and to develop that sort of global understanding is core to who we've always been. And so it makes sense as sort of a natural progression that as we enter into the high school and sort of expand these into a 3-week academic course that will be UC approved, that we'll continue to use both the city, San Jose, as well as the world as our classroom. To the question at hand about like what are the locations that we're going to, I will say that we will very firmly in the next couple months lock in what the courses are for the fall block because we'll be launching into the year with these immersives. And so those courses around San Jose will be really dialed in, and we're already beginning to do that work on that. We will wait until we have our founding faculty, which is going to happen soon. In fact, we had our first candidate on campus today, and we'll have a bunch more in the next couple of weeks. But over the spring, working with the founding faculty and getting input from our incoming class, we'll be developing those courses. But absolutely, we would imagine some of these courses, such as the one to Patagonia to look at land conservation, or the one to New Zealand as opportunities. I also want to recognize too that we'll ensure that that we have really great domestic trips as well and courses as well, because we want to make sure that we are not accidentally sort of being, we anticipate we may have some students who can't travel out of the country, and we want to make sure that options are great for them, for those students as well. So yes, these options are not locked in, but very likely.
And just to jump into that, because I think one of the exciting things in the work that we've been doing at the Scott Center is, we have this database of more than 500 social entrepreneurs locally and globally. So wherever we end up taking students, what we're really excited about is, we can email 3 or 4 or 5 people to say, hey, this is what we're studying. This is where we're coming. Can you meet us for lunch? Can you show us your company? Can you join us in some of these adventures? And one recently that popped up was, the future of kelp and climate cuisine. And what will that look like as we shift our menus to better protect our planet and our oceans? And we have 10 social entrepreneurs dying to jump in and hang out with high school kids that they, of course, want to recruit to come work for their companies in several years, but are also just really excited about the energy of being around young people. And we have yet to email someone and ask for, some sort of participation and not get something out of that relationship. And we're really grateful for all of these mutually beneficial partnerships that have just grown significantly over the years.
That's a great segue, Annie, to the next question. Someone asked, what are some of the top social justice issues that are facing the San Jose community that the high school will be in the center of downtown of? And what are some of the ways that Hillbrook might involve its students in those issues? I think one of the things I love about the way the Scott Center works with students and community members with that UN SDG Sustainable Development Goal framework is that it helps broaden our focus to a really wide variety of people and planet issues that students can really care about and can really make a difference in. Today in 8th grade science, students were working on the EPA's watershed quality database, where you can access using MAP really small measures of water quality going as small grain as some of the creeks that flow into the watersheds that surround the campus. And they were zooming in on downtown San Jose, and they were mapping actually with one of our prospective candidates who is visiting today, who's applying for one of our 9th grade teaching roles. They were mapping the waterways that course through downtown San Jose, clicking on each one to find out what data has already been collected about that water quality. Most of it was in the red zone, so highly contaminated. But then with that exploration of the data set, they were able to see, well, what kinds of pollutants are in the water. And it was everything from, there's mercury, to there's garbage, to there's pesticides. They were then zooming out and trying to see in the map, well, what about this area? Like, could we ask some questions that would help us figure out how did these things get into the waterways? So if we're thinking about watersheds as these kind of funnels that go in, can we think about where some of these pollutants came from? And then can we start to develop, we didn't obviously have time for this part today, but a project that we would be able to do with the 9th grade, doing this biochemistry course and taking this way of looking at biochemistry rooted in San Jose as the classroom is, well, how do people clean up pesticides? What are the impacts and who is it impacting? What people is it impacting most, but also what animals and plants is it impacting most? Who are the people who can't afford water filters? And so what is the issue that we are causing and not cleaning up the water that's publicly available right away? So these are some of the issues that I think come to mind. I was also talking with a student last week who was visiting the high school about some of the new research just showing the impact of light pollution in cities on pollinators. And we're just starting to understand that a lot of the lack of pollinators and then the subsequent lack of fertilized fruits and vegetables that are coming from that we rely on so heavily, not only all of us to eat, but in particular industries, particularly, right there, this is raising the cost of food. It's creating food shortages and shortages of work for farm working communities. And we're just starting to realize the extent to which urban light pollution is actually one of the things that's interfering with our pollinator populations, which we didn't know until a few years ago. And we've had students in our school become interested in this idea of light pollution. Can we design smarter streetlights that don't cast as wide of a light beam? For example, we had a student do their capstone on that also just this past year, following up on this question. So I think those are just some examples of the environmental issues that I know downtown San Jose and the San Jose community are facing. And there's lots more. Maybe Mark wants to add on.
Yeah, no, I'll jump in. I think, moving from the environment and thinking kind of more along the people side of the equation, one of the things that drew us to San Jose is that it's an incredibly diverse community with a very deep history of social justice. And so, within blocks of our school, is some really significant social justice history. For example, the Victory Salute statue, which is at the core, is at the heart of San Jose State University campus, which captures the Black Power movement, 1968, and the Tommy Jones and the athletes at the Mexican Olympics, and they were both San Jose State University athletes, and became a real point of early on contention in San Jose, and then an incredible source of pride for the university. And that's a fascinating story in and of itself. A few blocks the other direction is Japantown, and there's some rich history in that area, both of pre-World War II. There's then the very difficult history around relocation during World War II, and how all of these families were ripped out of this community and sent to relocation camps. And then the incredibly robust history since that time of that community and how it's come back, and the many incredible things that community has done. The building itself, the Moyer building, was the home to the UFW, the United Farm Workers, and Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta were in our high school space in the late 1960s with the Great Boycott and fighting for migrant workers and for the rights of farmers. And so there's just, and those are all historical examples, but those communities and other communities are still vibrant communities. We have a partnership, or have had partnerships with the Mexican Heritage Plaza, which is a couple of miles away, and a community that really is a vibrant community serving the Latinx community. So there's just lots of opportunities for us to engage. And I think we've said from the beginning, we are entering this community to learn with and from people. We are absolutely not coming in to save San Jose. We are so excited to be side by side with this incredibly rich history and with these vibrant communities. And of course, we also know that many of our students will come from these communities. So, and then Annie, I think you were going to jump in with some other examples as well.
Yeah, I was just meeting with a couple of students today. Two topics that are actively on young people's minds. One is hunger and homelessness, houselessness. And we have done a lot of work over the years to understand what kind of organizations we can work alongside, both to understand the complexity of these challenges, but also to make sure our terminology and the way in which we're framing, what it means to have access to resources continuously. So, one of the things a student said today is like, after a long winter break, when organizations have been shut down for 2 weeks, like where are people going to get their food while we're all on winter break? And it was, this moment of like realization that when we go off to celebrate holidays and when we're, gone from our school, there's also lack of access to really important resources that people need. And so when we partner with places like Second Harvest Food Bank, we're going in both as, learners and also interested in what are the ways that we can help make a difference on a day-to-day basis, but also just on advocating and using agency to push ideas forward and to make sure that we're amplifying messages of leaders that have been doing this work for many, many years. So one of the projects we do really early on is to profile a change maker from the San Jose community that's been doing incredible work. And that is, that's a history lesson, that's an English lesson. Oftentimes it reaches into math and science. The kids get really jazzed about the awesome people who live in San Jose. They're like, we could walk around the corner and go meet them right now. Should we invite them to coffee? Like the possibilities of what it means to understand change makers live inside of us, and we can amplify that change maker, but change makers are also part of our community on a day-to-day basis, is something I think our students and something we hope to bring to the high school students really hold on to. The other really important topic that a lot of young people are thinking about is mental health, and making sure that well-being, wellness, access to important resources is not something that just Hillbrook students have, but all students have, and all young people need this. And so understanding what that looks like, and it's changed and evolved over the years, but they're deep advocates for one another. And that's the thing I love so much about young people, is they are just claiming the spaces that are their own. And we can't wait to just work alongside of them and amplify their voices.
All right. Thanks, Annie. And thank you all for your content and sharing and answering the questions. I just wanted to thank all of you in the audience for joining us tonight. I'm really looking forward to seeing a lot of you students. I recognize a lot of the names in the audience tonight, and helping you discover what matters to you and helping you figure out what you're going to do about it. For those of you that haven't visited our campus yet, we invite you to join us this Saturday for our second upper school open house. You'll get a chance to meet many of the folks that are on this call tonight in person, learn a little bit more about the program, and then Annie is actually going to go through an activity about the future of San Jose and have you practice some of the work that she shared with you today. In addition, we also invite you 8th graders to join us on campus for a shadow day, where you'll get to meet other prospective students looking at Hillbrook, visit our middle school campus, and get to meet some of our current 8th graders that you could be classmates with next year. It looks like we don't have any more questions, so that wraps up our program for the evening. Have a good night, everyone.